So I've mustered up the courage to start a TikTok. I started posting every single day. I think, about 3 days in, and it is kind of cool to have this sort of feeling of courage, right? This feeling of doing something scary. I have this tendency to downplay a lot of what I believe or what I feel too often. Like, okay, I'm posting a TikTok. What's the worst that can happen, right? Everyone should be able to do it. And then you realize that not a lot of people can. A lot of people are embarrassed. A lot of people are too afraid of what other people think of them or what it means about them. And I feel the same way. The only difference is that I've just stepped over the bridge or went over it. I do that very often where I kind of discount a lot of my accomplishments, anything. Oh, well, a lot of people are doing it. It should be easy. And I think a part of that has to do with, I think if I'm really being honest, it would be low self esteem. It's this feeling like, well, everyone should be able to do it. You should be able to do it. And it's actually a pretty terrible way to look at things. It's not a very effective, positive. It's just not very. What's the word? Something about the word should. You should not use the word should. There's a psychological reason for it, because should, instead of saying should, you should say I can, or I can, or I don't want to, or I would prefer. Right? You say I can, I prefer, instead of should, because should kind of creates this weight of guilt. It tends to be like, well, I should go to the gym. All you have to say is, I can go to the gym. I should be on a diet. I shouldn't eat that. I can eat that. I would prefer to eat something else. For whatever reason, it does have an impact on the way you think. Often, a lot of the time, I don't know what it is. Stop shooting all over the place. Once you stop shooting all over the place, I promise you'll feel better. This is actually from cognitive behavioral therapy. If you're familiar with that kind of way of thinking, it's a psychology thing where essentially you just sort of like jujitsu all your negative thoughts and bad feelings. It's actually pretty good. You just find different sort of coping mechanisms to sort of combat and karate chop and block all these like negative feelings that you often get. Because one of the common things that I used to suffer from is catastrophizing. And that can be just like thinking worst case scenario. And what you learn over time is that the worst case scenario never happens, and it's almost always in your head. And that feeling that you get from that worst case scenario feeling almost always fades. It fades away. And you have to remember that, right? You have to like, okay, why am I feeling like this? It's because I am catastrophizing. That's all it means. Like I'm so like, is it really the end of the world? No, it's not. Is it really going to kill me? No, it's not. Why isn't it going to kill me? Why is this not the end of the world? What will really happen? A lot of psychological strategies and thinking come a lot from the simple thing of just asking a question. More importantly, taking the time to do deep, thoughtful questions like, why am I feeling like this? What is it that makes me feel like this when I hear this or when I read this or when someone says something to me? Why am I feeling uncomfortable? And a lot of the time, I am flooded with so much emotion that like you can't do it. So it's very difficult to do. That's why people get triggered. I mean, I was thinking about something that triggered me the other day because I'm a marketing person, I'm a salesperson, I'm a business owner. And I saw this post about like someone doing personal training and how he suggested to the lady, this 69-year-old lady wanted to buy personal training, but she said, but then he recommended that she shouldn't, right? Because it's better for her to buy clothes, right? Go Lululemon and enjoy yourself. And of course, as most people do when they read things on social media, they don't read the whole thing. They just kind of skim through, make a judgment, and then they post a comment. That's what I did. I put, LOL, she's going to buy training from someone else. And then the next day, he commented back and says, oh, she did bought training from me before. Goes to show that I didn't read the whole post or I missed something, right? And And why do I call that a trigger? It's not really trigger. It's more like it elicited an emotional response. Like if you, I looked up triggered, and really triggered is actually a trauma. Like when you actually are truly triggered, it's like from being in a war, from being abused, like something very traumatic. That's actually what triggered means. When we use trigger now, it doesn't really mean, we're not using it in the we're not using in the sense that it's actually meant to be used. It's actually, we use it for something else. We exaggerate it. So what I'll do is I'll look into, let me dive into this like bear thing a little bit, or bear thing. Let me dive into this idea of CBT, because it has been useful for me, and maybe if you're listening this far, maybe you're trying to find a way to improve your own psychology. And the first step when it comes to CBT, which stands for cognitive behavioral therapy, is you have to identify the distortion that you're having. Essentially, what exaggeration that you're creating in your mind. And when you do that, it is often, they're pretty common. Here are the 10 common ones. All or nothing thinking. This is actually pretty common for me. Like, I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. I mean, it's all or nothing. Like literally like all or nothing, right? It's either like, here's an example. It's always, when you say phrases like always and never, right? That's never going to work. Or you always forget, right? That's all or nothing thinking. We typically do this in relationships too. We say these things, and it's actually not good language over time, right? It's inaccurate. Um, this one I do a ton. It's called overgeneralization. When you overgeneralize how you feel. Overgeneralization is the tendency to make broad assumptions based on limited specifics. If one person thinks I'm stupid, everyone will, right? It's the worst. Mental filter is just simply negative thinking. An A plus average doesn't matter. I got a C on an assignment, right? So it's kind of like you're making yourself worse. That's what I was doing earlier. It's actually called discounting. That's a specific kind of mental filter. Disqualifying the positive, jumping to conclusions. I don't want to go through all of these right now, but catastrophizing is one of them. Anyways, once you identify the cognitive distortion, what you do next is you ask questions about the cognitive distortion. Because it's funny how this works. It works so well because a lot of the time, all you're doing is you're identifying the fear. You're identifying the emotion. You're identifying it is a distortion. A lot of the time it's distortion. Like when like if someone breaks up with you, like think about it. Like if you're in a romantic relationship and you break up or you get a divorce, right? My life is over. Everything is ruined, right? And everything is not ruined. Again, easy for me to say. It's not really that easy, but I mean but if you think of it's hard to realize. But what just happened is one person decided to not be in the relationship. That is the factual what happened, right? There's always more wrapped into that, but what actually happened is one person. What actually happened was someone decided they didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. Right? Or when someone dies, of course, it's a very traumatic thing. It can be sad, especially if you're young or they're young, the people that who pass. But like I read something this morning, me and my son, we wake up 5 o'clock in the morning and we go for a walk and we read. And the thing that we were reading is extreme ownership, and there was this part in there that really made me feel really emotional. They were talking about this guy who got shot and died instantly. Okay, not a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but I'm just saying, like, I don't have any feelings for it other than it being very sad. And then there was this part where a guy jumped on a grenade to save his 3 friends. And for some reason, that made me feel very emotional. Like, I just felt this, like, he just jumped on the grenade, to save his friends. That's what happened. And but what happened when someone what happens when someone dies? Well, they stop breathing and they no longer exist, or they are no longer breathing. And that's what really happened. And I think that, you know, it's very easy to kind of be cynical or maybe be sarcastic, or maybe even the way that I'm saying is so matter of fact. I am saying it matter of fact, and it does sound awkward when I say it like that. They just stopped breathing. They jumped on a grenade and they stopped breathing. That's what happened. And I think that sounds callous in some ways, but that's what really happened. And that's not to mean that you can't be human, you can't feel, and you can't think, and you can't have these emotions. It's just like when someone dies that you really care about, or especially in something in a heroic act like that, it's okay to feel distorted and sad because you care about this person. The thing is when the distortion kind of makes you, when it's not useful. I mean, at the end of the day, emotions tend to be not very useful in a lot of circumstances, right? I remember I had a business situation where I was negotiating something and I did some stupid things that almost ruined the whole thing. Of course, I think back on that situation. Maybe I'll tell a story sometime. I think back on that situation where like it was very romantic, it was very brave, and it was, but it was also very stupid, right? And the emotions can make some bad choices. You know, think about people, everyone in prison and in jail. Like a lot of the time, people made a temporary solution to. They made a permanent. They did something that they can't take back, right? They have temporary feelings that resulted in a action that was permanent, right? Like shooting somebody or killing somebody or doing some egregious act, right? Not an easy thing, but that's cognitive distortions. That's really something that I have been diving into past couple months. I do struggle a lot with mental like challenges, or I have in the past. And if I'm being really, really honest and really, really truthful to you all, the thing that has made the most dramatic impact on my life as far as like mental ability and mental like stress and like worry has been Christ, has been God. Now, don't get me wrong, I still use a lot of these things, and I still, you know, love psychology, and I still love Stoicism, and I read all these books on different topics that are non-Christian, that are more secular, but allowing myself to kind of dive into the Bible and be part of a Bible study has made an impact on me. Now, that's probably something I'll make a video about later. I kind of have made some videos about of kind of following Christ, but this was really just a warm-up video, and it turned out to be pretty good. So this is going to get posted. I'm going to edit it. It doesn't take very long. And then, follow me on TikTok, Ryan Saplin. I'm going to be posting on there every day because I want to build something. All right. See you guys.